Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Shri Krishna. So Vaishnav Uncle Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing with our readings of the biographies of the 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. We are now reading day 191 and Varta 177, Vraja Mansingh. Continuing from yesterday, the king asked her, "Who are you?" She replied, "I am an oilman's daughter." He invited her to come into the garden. She came to the garden and he rode there. He called her to one side and asked her what it was that she wanted. She said, "I wish to marry, but you alone and no other, otherwise I shall not marry at all." The king agreed to marry her. He sat her in the palanquin, took her into his palace. He called his astrologers to fix an auspicious time for the marriage and made preparations for the wedding. He married her with great ceremony and then brought her to live in his personal chambers. He would be with her every day at night. She would massage his feet, fan him, and serve him in many other ways. He became very pleased with her Bhav Prakash. In this, the importance of selfless Seva is shown. She served him and pleased him. Seva is a very powerful thing. Part 1 continued. The king asked her whether she would like to become Sri Gosaiji's disciple and help him in his Lord's Seva. She agreed. The king was very happy and sent a messenger to Sri Gosaiji in Adel to tell him, "With your blessing I have married a girl and made her my queen. Please make her into your disciple and then she will assist me in my Seva. If you would come to Jagannath Puri, I shall send her to you there with my minister." Thus he supplicated Sri Gosaiji. When he read the letter, Sri Gosaiji replied, "At the festival of Rath Yatra I shall come to Sri Jagannath Puri. Send the queen here at that time with your minister. I shall initiate her." The messenger returned to the king with Sri Gosaiji's letter. The king was so happy to read it. He told his minister to get ready to go to Jagannath Puri. The minister arrived in Jagannath Puri with the queen, and Sri Gosaiji also blessed them by coming there. He took the queen for the holy sight of the Lord, accompanying her. He then sent the queen back to the camp. The minister then came to Sri Gosaiji, and told him that the queen was there and asked him to shower his blessings. Sri Gosaiji told the minister to make the queen fast the following day and that he would initiate her the day after that. The minister also requested such favour, and Sri Gosaiji told him to fast as well, that he would also initiate him with the Lord's name and Brahmasambandh. The minister asked, "May we send for and partake of Sri Jagannathji's prasad?" Sri Gosaiji replied, "Regularly partake of Sri Jagannathji's prasad, but in small amounts. Do not fill your stomach with it." The minister returned to the camp and instructed everyone to fast the following day, that Sri Gosaiji would be initiating them then. The minister and the queen fasted on the next day. Sri Gosaiji blessed them by granting them initiation with the Lord's name and Brahmasambandha. The queen offered him an appropriate donation, as did the minister. They then inquired, "May the queen now bathe and participate in Seva?" He granted his permission. The minister also requested Sri Gosaiji to write a letter to the king, granting them permission to participate in the Seva of the Lord. Sri Gosaiji wrote such a letter and gave it to the minister. He said, "Now you may go, and the king will allow you to bathe for Seva." The queen and the minister gave sizable donations and took their leave. Sri Gosaiji gave them his upper garment as prasad, and they set off with his permission. They arrived home to the south. The queen went to her palace. The minister went to see the king, who asked to hear all the news. He told the king everything that had come to pass in Jagannath Puri. He then gave the king the letter that Sri Gosaiji had written, and he was overjoyed to read it. The king praised the minister's actions in bringing the letter, for now he would get some help in his Seva. "You may now bathe and join me in the Seva." The king gave out prasad, tulsi necklaces and charanamrit to all the Vaishnavas and informed them that the minister and the queen would now be in Seva with him. The king served the Lord through dressing and adorning him, etc., and the minister did all the other necessary services. That night the queen asked what her Seva duties would now be. He told her that she should now be in charge of all the non-grain or milk preparations for the Lord, that the Lord would accept all of these from her. There are 2 cooks. They will deal with all the anusakani and sakari preparations. When the king had originally been initiated, at that time 25 of his family members had also been initiated, and they were already helping in the Seva, some with the palm leaves, some with the flowers, and some in the storeroom. There was someone to bring the supplies to the temple too. They were all well engaged. They would all take Mahaprasad after the Lord's offerings had been made. The Vaishnavas partook of all the categories of prasad. The king honoured them all in this way. When they had all been fed, the king and the minister would have their prasad and then engage themselves in matters of state. The king would bathe again at the time for the afternoon services, as did the minister. They stayed in the Seva all evening until the Lord took rest for the night. Then they left the temple and came out to take prasad and finished off the day's work of state. At night, the king would go to see his queen. He praised the way that she was making the milk preparations, or dudgar. He spent all his time with this Vaishnava queen. She blessed him a lot with her service. The 108 other queens were extremely envious of her. They thought, "We are all princesses and queens, but we could not get the king under our sway. This oilman's daughter has been able to captivate him, however. We should go to meet her and speak with her." One day, after inquiring if she was at home, several of the queens went to see her. They praised her ability to captivate the king. The oilman's daughter said, "It happened just as I had told you at first." The queens were happy and said, "We are all sisters, but you are the senior one and we are the juniors. Please urge the king on our behalf. He has abandoned us, but we will now do whatever he tells us." The oilman's daughter agreed to speak to him. The queens then said, "We are 108 queens. You are the senior one. Please do visit us regularly." She agreed to visit them whenever she had time. They also suggested that they might come to see her whenever she had time, and she agreed to call them to visit her whenever the time was right. The new queen took their leave and went to bathe for Seva. She prepared all the offerings for her Dudgar Seva. She offered all the saffron-coloured preparations in bowls of gold, and the white ones in silver bowls, so that the preparations and the vessels she served them in were of the same colour. By serving in this way, she held the king fascinated. When he came to see her in the evenings, he praised her a lot. He said, "The 108 queens could not captivate me, but you indeed have. You offer very nice seva to the Lord." His praise of her was endless. He would annually send all sorts of new varieties of supplies, cloth and wealth to Sri Gosaiji. He served his Sri Thakurji very nicely. His Sri Thakurji granted him his personal experience and asked of him whatever he wanted. Thus concludes Varta 177, the story of Vraja Mansingh, who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that one should not associate with one's relatives, be they spouse, parents, or children, if they are not Vaishnavas. One should not have too much affection for them. A Vaishnava's seva is of the most important, and one should associate with any of them who are helpful in the seva of the Lord. One should serve the Lord at every moment of one's life. This is the principle shown here. Thus concludes Varta 177. Aaj ke Anand ki jai. Sab Vaishnavan ko jai Shri Krishna. Shri Vallabhacharya ji, Shri Gosai ji ki jai ho. सब वैष्णवों को जय 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 श्री राधे।